Welcome to Libratum Vita. My name is Brooke, and today I would like to talk about empathy. To begin, let's just start with the difference between sympathy and empathy, because I myself had this confused for a while. Sympathy starts with a sim, as in similar, because you are able to relate to someone else's experience because you have been through something similar yourself. Let's say, for instance, someone is telling you about a recent car accident that they've been in, and this prompts you to remember a time when you were in a really bad accident, and you're able to sympathize with them because of this, even though they're separate, sort of shared experience. Empathy is different because you are able to understand the feelings of someone else without having gone through the experience yourself. So rather than having that similar experience and feeling with another person, instead you're simply listening to some sort of hardship that they've had and just have a sense of understanding and care for them. Both are wonderful qualities to have and to be able to express to other people. It's wonderful for us to be able to connect with another in this way, especially when someone's going through a hard time. It's really nice for us to be able to connect and relate to that person, or even care for them, even if you can't really relate. However, as with anything, there is a point where it can go too far. Sure, it's nice to be able to relate to people, and when you are having a difficult time with something in particular, it's really nice to have someone that you can relate to that and be able to kind of vent those feelings to. But there is a point, of course, when venting becomes too much and you're kind of just dwelling on the problem rather than working to fix it. The moment when something tragic happens, or even just something kind of difficult, it's, of course, always going to be emotional for us, and it's okay to feel those negative emotions and to even vent them to someone else. But the point of venting is to be able to release that negative energy and let it go. Whereas sometimes it kind of becomes easy for us to continue to complain about a certain situation without actually working to fix it, and that's where it becomes an issue. It's always nice to be able to kind of unload our feelings onto another person who's able to handle it. And this is a form of catharsis. There are a few different ways that you can do this, but most commonly is to be able to talk to a friend or a family member if something's troubling you. And this is great. This is good for us to be able to release those thoughts and emotions, and so that we don't have to deal with them again. But again, there is a point where you kind of get stuck in this cycle of continuing to bring that topic up over and over again. The purpose of catharsis is to rid yourself of that energy, not to keep reoccurring it. The hard part too is that when we choose to unleash these emotions onto another person, that person kind of automatically will tend to mirror your emotions. It's just part of human nature of that we tend to grasp on to whatever energies are around us, and we kind of mirror how the other person is reacting or behaving. This can be a great thing in certain situations, but in times like this, when someone's presenting a problem to you, it feels almost automatic to kind of bring on a solemn expression and kind of take on that kind of negative energy that they're portraying to you. And that's not your fault, that's just how we're wired. This sort of mirroring behavior is actually really important to us, and it's something that we instinctually have as children to help us with our development. We react by almost imitating how someone else is reacting in order to learn the correct social cues and how to get along in the world. And this is super useful for us at that age. But when we get older, we sometimes will continue this behavior in order to get along easily in social situations, but it's not always the most useful to you. As with anything, you want to take all of the good things that you can out of certain learned behaviors, but they're not always going to apply to every situation, so it's important to be able to find the limit of when it's not helpful to you. So when maybe a friend is unleashing some negative emotions about a certain situation that happened to them, and you're listening and you're understanding and you're empathizing with them, and that's fine. But if they continue the story on and just keep going on and on about how awful it was, all of that negative emotion starts to compile itself onto you because you yourself are listening to this, empathizing with them, putting yourself in their shoes of feeling the way that they felt. And that's not good either, because rather than helping that person get through that negative time, instead they're making you feel worse and creating two people that are now unhappy. Of course, most people aren't trying to make you feel bad. They just honestly feel bad themselves and feel like they need to tell someone about it. And that's okay, that's natural for us to feel that way, but your job, if you are the listener in this situation, is to try and turn that around and bring the conversation to a more constructive one. Of course, you want to be able to be there for them and tell them things like, oh, I'm sorry, that sucks, I wish that didn't happen, but here's what we can do to look forward to the future. It's so much more helpful when we try to turn the conversation around into something more constructive and useful. Even though something might be difficult right now, you know that there are always good times ahead of you. So let's focus on maybe how we're going to get through this, and the next time that something good's going to happen. Not only will this help them to redirect their energy into getting over the situation, it'll also help you too, because you're not taking on that negative energy from whatever happened. Even though it was never yours in the first place, you can take on that energy from others. So it's better to protect yourself from that and keep your positive energy flow going. So try to release more positive energy onto that person so that they can absorb that rather than dwelling on their own. It might seem really simple and logical, because it is, but it's actually not all that easy to do all the time. When someone's not feeling well, it's so easy for us to look at them with sadness and to feel bad for them. And that doesn't help anyone in the situation. It makes you feel bad and it makes them feel worse, because they realize, wow, if this person is looking at me with such sadness, I must really be going through it. And instead of that, and maybe try to show them that it's not as big of a deal as it might seem right now. Not to belittle the situation, but to help them move on from it and realize that there's a lot of other good things that could come their way soon. I remember when I was going through a really hard time just emotionally, a lot of responses I would get back was that people would look at me with sadness and just be like, oh man, I'm so sorry you're going through this. And it's not that anything's wrong with that. I would never hold that against anyone. It's a nice thing to say, and I'm sure that they felt bad for me at the time, but it really didn't help me at all. And I then started to refrain from telling other people when I felt unwell, because I didn't want them to absorb that negative energy either. I didn't want it to spread, my sadness. So I would keep it to myself and it would become worse, and that didn't help anyone. We really are the only people that can help ourselves. Other people are very useful and it's great to build each other up, but when it comes down to it, you're the only one who can really help yourself. So you're the one that has to do your own internal work to figure out how to get through different situations. So I try to keep that perspective in mind when I see that someone else is going through something difficult, whether it's some kind of emotional turmoil or if it's some kind of actual physical event where someone got hurt or something of that sort. No matter what it is, it's important to keep this perspective in mind, and so that when someone else is going through something difficult, rather than look at them with that sadness like other people did to me, I find it more useful to spread more positivity to them, because I know that they need it most. It's so easy for us when we're in a room full of people with positive energy to continue to bring that energy up. But when we're in a room full of people with more of a solemn negative energy, we tend to mirror that as well. But what we don't quite keep in mind is that the ones feeling the negative emotions are the ones that need the positivity the most. So even though it's hard to kind of muster that in a time when you're surrounded by the opposite, the best thing that you can do for yourself and for everyone else around you is to find that within yourself, to be the light in the room. As I've mentioned before, you get what you give. So if you put out a happy, constructive attitude, then other people will start to mirror that as well, and it'll become contagious. The best thing that you can ever do for someone is believe that they are able to do something on their own. As nice as it sounds to be able to help someone through everything, it's so much better to enable them to handle it themselves. As I said, we are the only ones that can help ourselves, and as long as you believe that you have the power to do so, you will be able to. And so if you put that belief in someone else, there's no greater gift that you could give them. Feeling bad for someone sometimes mistakenly allows the other person to believe that you don't believe in them. So putting out that uplifting attitude and showing them that they have the strength to be able to get through it themselves will foster more belief in their own abilities. Something I decided after I got out of the difficult time that I was going through, once I was able to pull myself out of it myself, I decided that I would always be that positive light for other people, and that's the work I want to do. So anytime someone else is going through something difficult, I do my very best to refrain from showing sadness in return and let them know that they are a strong person and that they can do it. We are all so much stronger than we may realize, and we can get through anything. You are only bound by the restraints that you put on yourself. So once you break free from those, you'll be able to do anything you want to do. We are all here on our own separate journeys, and we're all here to do different things and learn and grow in different ways. But we all are here together, and so we might as well do our best to help one another grow as best as we can and spread that positive energy between us all. Well, I hope you learned something new today, and I hope you enjoyed this video. For now, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon.